Hey, welcome back to Real Talk, where we break down movies, directors, and everything in between. I'm your host, Josh, and today I'm going to give you my official picks for tonight's 97th Annual Academy Awards. Now, the Oscars are just a few hours away, and whether you're filling out your own ballot or just curious about who might take home the gold, I've got you covered. We'll dive in, we'll start with some of the lesser known but still incredibly important categories, and then work our way up to the big prize, Best Picture. Stick around, and I'll give you all of my picks. These picks are mostly what I want to win, a little bit is what I think will win, but let's have fun with it. So before we get into some of the bigger categories, I want to take a moment to highlight the short film categories. These don't always get the same spotlight as those feature-length nominees, but they consistently deliver some of the most innovative and emotional stories of the year. Whether it's through animation, live action, or documentary, short films have an incredible ability to tell impactful stories in just a fraction of the time. And I think it's one of the best ways that someone can get into or get their name out there. So without any further ado, let's start with Best Animated Short Film. There were a lot of really good movies this year, and this is one of those categories where I don't think my favorite's going to win, which was Yuck. The one I think that is going to win is Wander to Wonder. And often the animated shorts get overlooked, but I think Wander to Wonder captured my attention because it had this surreal visuals and a heartfelt message, and that really resonates a lot of times with the Academy voters. The animation style here, it really blends this traditional hand-drawn techniques with some really subtle digital flourishes just to accent everything. And it gives it that dreamlike quality that really complements the story. I think it stands out because it's emotional journey that it takes you on. Without a single word of dialogue, this film is about finding wonder in the smallest moments. And I think that's why the Academy is going to respond to its originality and its emotional depth. And then Best Live Action Short Film, my pick here is The Last Ranger. Short films often pack a lot into their really small runtimes, and The Last Ranger delivers a really gripping narrative and some stellar performances. It's set against the backdrop of a remote national park. The film follows a park ranger grappling with personal loss and facing this escalating environmental crisis. And I love this one because it uses its setting like another character. The isolation, the quiet beauty, and the looming threat of destruction all really play into the story's emotional weight. It's tight, an emotional story, and it feels timely and timeless. I mean, I don't have to tell you, we know what's going on in the world. So this one really struck me as very of the moment. And then for Best Documentary Short, for my pick, I really enjoyed or really thought that I Am Ready, Warden was one of the most powerful. The film, it gives this raw, unflinching look at the final days of a death row inmate, exploring questions of justice, redemption, and even humanity. It's haunting and moving without ever feeling exploitative, which I think is a really tough balance to strike. But what struck me in this film is how it finds these small moments of grace in a really bleak subject. Documentaries in general have a unique ability to shine a light on stories that might otherwise go unseen, and this one does that in a really beautiful way. So there you have my picks on the short film categories. So now I want to talk about two categories that I don't think gets enough spotlight with the general population, and that's the best documentary feature and best international feature film. Now, I know film nerds like myself and probably some of you listeners, we like these movies, we watch these movies, but I think they need to get more attention from just the general audience. The films, they don't have the same box office draws as big blockbusters, but they tell stories that are deeply human, and they often shed light on these perspectives and experiences we might not otherwise see. And this year's nominees are no exception. And here's my picks for these categories that left a lasting impression on me. First up, best documentary feature. My pick is Porcelain War. Documentaries have this unique ability to make the world feel bigger and smaller at the same time. Porcelain War is one of those films that zooms in on personal lives while giving us a wider view of historical events. The filmmakers here follow individuals navigating life in the aftermath of conflict. It blends their personal struggles with the larger looming forces of history. And the film is powerful because it feels really intimate. You get drawn into the daily lives of the people on screen, the small victories, the heartbreaks, and then ultimately their resilience. It's not just about facts or a timeline. It's about what it feels like to live through something like this. The cinematography is raw and immersive, really made me feel like I was right there with them. And I think the Academy will appreciate how Porcelain War manages to balance beauty and pain in a really poignant way. This is the kind of film that doesn't just inform you, it helps you to feel or empathize with the characters. Just a wonderful little film. And then for best international feature film, my vote over time actually changed on this one. I originally thought Emilia Perez was going to take this one. All of the controversy surrounding that, I'll let you do your own research and where you stand on that. But I think that really affected that film's chances. And then I watched I'm Still Here, and that movie is something else. So international films often push boundaries of storytelling, and I'm Still Here is the perfect example of that. Now, the film tells the story of survival and identity in a way that's deeply personal, but it's still, I think, universally relatable. We can all get something out of it. And what stood out to me here is how it blends these really stunning visuals with some incredible raw performances. The actors deliver these performances that are subtle but absolutely gut-wrenching. The pacing here is deliberate. It lets every moment breathe and makes the emotional beats hit harder. There's something about foreign films, maybe it's the different cultural lens, but it allows us to tap into emotions in a way Hollywood doesn't always achieve. I'm Still Here is one of those films that will stick with you, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Academy voters really connect with its story as much as I did. I mean, both of these categories, though, are proof that powerful storytelling isn't limited by language or format. Whether through documentary or narrative fiction, these films can really remind us of just how important empathy and understanding different perspectives is. If you're someone who usually skips over these categories, I highly recommend giving these films a watch. I think you might just find a new favorite genre, so check them out. Now, next up, I want to move into the technical categories, the behind-the-scenes magic that brings these films to life. These categories are not always the attention grabbers like the acting and directing awards, but I think they really play a huge role in shaping how we experience a movie and even how much we like an actor's performance. So starting with best makeup and hairstyling, well, I have to start with the substance. Because makeup and hairstyling can be such an underrated part of a film's success, but when it's done right, it can completely transform both the actors and the story itself. And the substance absolutely nails that balance. The film's whole premise hinges on physical transformation, and the makeup team delivers some truly jaw-dropping work that blurs the lines between beauty and just grotesque body horror. And it's especially impressive is how the makeup isn't just for show, it actually plays a crucial role in our film's narrative. It reflects the character's inner struggle as much as their outward appearance. It's super unsettling, it's extremely bold, and I think the Academy will reward that kind of ambition. And then the best visual effects. There's a lot of great options in this category. This time, I didn't feel like we didn't have the Star Wars and we didn't have the Marvel movies that usually dominate in these categories. So this time, I really think Dune Part 2 deserves it. Because when it comes to visual effects, it's hard to argue against. The first film already set the bar incredibly high, and the sequel manages to raise it even further. I mean, if you've seen it, you know Shai-Hulud, the sandworm. Those effects are woven through Dune seamlessly. Those massive cityscapes, they feel completely real. There's a sense of weight and scale to the world that was built, and it makes you believe that these characters are really there, which is, it's not always the case with big budget science fiction films. The best visual effects, I think, for me, they don't just wow us. They pull you deeper into the story, and that's exactly what Part 2 of Dune does for me. And if it doesn't win this category, I'll actually be kind of shocked. Now let's take a break and we'll come back for some sound and music. Now, sound and music are really vital parts of the cinema experience. Even if they don't always get the attention, these elements, they can shape a film's atmosphere. They heighten emotions, and they really help you feel the immersiveness of the world without you realizing it. So starting with best sound, my pick here is Wicked. Now, anybody that follows me or has heard, I am not the biggest fan of Wicked, but in this case, it's a little different. Sound design can make or completely break a film, especially in a world that's as fantastical as Wicked. But from the moment the film starts, the soundscape is what pulls you into Oz. The rustle of the leaves in the enchanted forest, the distant hum of magic in the air, and the booming echoes. I mean, it's all super impressive, especially how the sounds blend in with the music, because it is a musical, so those things have to work in harmony. It makes everything feel like it is part of one cohesive world. The balance here between dialogue, effects, and score is really, really well done. It's never overwhelming, but it is always in an attempt to enhance the story. The sound design really does transport you, and it makes the fantastical feel tangible here. And then next we have Best Original Song. Now this is one I couldn't get away from Emilia Perez, because as you'll see later, there's one aspect of this film that I really did like. And so that's why my pick for Best Original Song is El Mal. El Mal is this really powerful song that it's haunting, it's hypnotic, it's got this bounce, and it really gets you moving, and it really sticks with me. I hear it in my head, and there's just something about watching Zoe Saldana sing that song. But what makes it stand out is how that song actually captures the emotional core of the film. It doesn't feel forced. It's not an overly polished song. It's raw. It's almost like it's a secret that the movie has and that's been building up to the entire time. And if you're like me, that song, I have no idea what they're saying because I don't speak Spanish, but it just gets me going every time I hear it. And I really hope that the Academy follows me on that and gives it the win. And then Best Original Score. This one we go back to Wicked again. Because as much as I didn't love the story, I thought it was overly long and I didn't really cling to the characters. I didn't think that it was perfect, but I really did think that the music worked most of the time. So the musical scores, as we know, they carry so much of the film's emotional weight. Wicked delivers there. The score, it weaves through every scene. It enhances the sense of wonder and danger that is the definition of the story. And it really does this great job of shifting between sweeping orchestral pieces and the more intimate, delicate moments. It really doesn't feel like background noise. It's this living, breathing part of the film. And I think that's really what some of the best scores do. They're just not, there's something that you have to feel. And that's going to lead us into some of our the production design, the film editing, and cinematography. Just the camera work, what the costumes look like, and what does the world look like. And this, again, just because of its vibrancy, I really think Wicked is going to win here. My personal pick, I really loved what Nosferatu looked like. I just don't know that it's where the Academy is going to fall. Production design, it's one of those things that I don't think we consciously notice when it's done well, but it absolutely shapes the entire feel of a film. And Wicked brings this world of Oz to life in a way that's vibrant and layered. The Emerald City practically glows with the lush, otherworldly energy, while the darker corners of Oz, they feel eerie and lived in. Like when they go to the house where the animals are having their meeting, it feels real. It feels like an actual place you could go. The sets all feel meticulously crafted, the grand palace, the small village details. And I think the production design here is impressive because it does a great job of balancing fantasy with a grounded sense of place. You actually believe that the world could exist, even when it's at its most magical. And again, with costume design, I personally preferred the gothic feel of Nosferatu, but I really didn't have anything negative to say about Wicked, and I think that's where it's going to land again. Costumes, they do so much more than just look pretty. They tell us who the characters are and what kind of world they inhabit. The fact that the costumes in Wicked blend fantasy with historical influences, creating this unique aesthetic that feels familiar but still somehow magical and otherworldly. Glinda's shimmering gowns and Elphaba's darker, more practical outfits tell you everything you need to know about their characters before we even get to know them. I think this one's probably a lock because those costumes aren't just beautiful, they're actually essential to this film's storytelling. Leading us into film editing, and I think this is where Anora just beats everybody. Editing it's that invisible art, and when it's done well, you shouldn't ever notice it. But it absolutely shapes how we experience the entire story. Anora uses editing to build tension and the pace of the story, and it does so perfectly. If you watch for them, the cuts feel intentional. Whether it's a lingering shot that lets a moment breathe, or it's a quick cut that really ratchets up any tension. The film's rhythm will keep you on edge, and it never feels manipulative. And I think that kind of precision is what the Academy wants to recognize. And then cinematography, there are a lot of great options here. I didn't know which way to go, but there's just something about Dune Part 2. Greg Fraser's cinematography, it's really breathtaking. Those sweeping desert landscapes that are so vast, and the way the light and shadow are used they give the film an almost mythic quality. I think it's also impressive how the camera work makes the world feel epic, but still somehow personal and small at the same time. And I think it's probably due to those intimate close-ups of characters set against those massive landscape. It gives this film a unique visual language and it elevates everything. I think this is the kind of cinematography that you think about, that you remember, and it sticks with you. It's like every frame could be a painting of its own. All right, now I want to talk about one of my favorite Oscar categories, screenplays. As many of you know, I am more into the writing. I have a master's degree in English. It's sort of where I fall. It's my interest. It's what I enjoy, words. Whether it's an adaptation of an existing story or something completely fresh, a great script is the foundation of any memorable movie. A strong screenplay doesn't just give actors something to say. It sets the tone, it builds the world, and it makes us feel something real. So let's break down my picks for Best Adapted and Best Original Screenplay. First, Best Adapted Screenplay. So my pick here goes to Conclave. Now, adapting a book into a film is tricky because you've got to balance staying true to that source material while also making it work as a movie. Conclave absolutely nails that balance. So it takes Robert Harris's novel, it's packed with tension, and it turns it into a gripping, almost thriller-like experience. The screenplay doesn't just translate the plot. In this case, it actually enhanced it. I read the book. I found it to be a touch boring, but the movie, every whispered conversation, the political maneuvering all felt really weighty and almost intense. You don't have to be a Vatican insider to get hooked on this story. It pulls you in with its sharp dialogue, the extremely high stakes drama, and an underlying sense of mystery that will really keep you glued to the screen. And it was easy to pick this for this category. Same with the Best Original Screenplay. A Real Pain is, if you follow me, I've already talked about how much I loved A Real Pain, and I have to give it more love here because the screenplay is just that good. The film, it's hilarious, it's heartfelt, and it's full of these small, beautifully observed moments that feel real. The dialogue here is super sharp, it's really witty, but never in a forced or even overly polished way. It captures the kind of conversations you have with people you know too well, family, old friends, and the ones where a single word or a look carries years of history. It's funny, but it also hits you in the gut when you least expect it. It's a really good job of subtly introducing and dealing with someone struggling with mental illness, in this case depression, and it's really, really well done. And I think that makes it a great original screenplay, and it gets my pick. Now, we'll jump right into my picks in the acting categories. This is who I think should win, who probably will win, and why these performances stood out in a year packed with talent, because this was a wonderful year. So let's get into those, starting with my pick for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Now, I mentioned it earlier, El Mal being my favorite song. Zoe Saldana is something else. She's my pick here. She absolutely crushed it. She delivers a performance that is so layered, so emotionally rich that you just can't take your eyes off of her. This is one of those roles that could have easily fallen into predictable territory, but she brings so much depth that every scene she's in feels like it has weight. She's been in the industry long enough, giving us blockbuster after blockbuster, But this time, she's showing a whole different side of her acting chops. And if there is any justice, she'll be walking up to that podium tonight. Because honestly, I think the only reason that Emilia Perez got the love that it got was because of Zoe Saldana. She's that good that people were fooled into thinking there was something more there. She's just that powerful. And then Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Kieran Culkin. He's been on fire lately. We've seen what he can do in Succession, but there's something about this performance that took things to a whole new level. He's got this perfect mix of charm and vulnerability and a really razor-sharp delivery, and it makes his character extremely compelling. And the best part, though, he makes it look so effortless. It's the kind of performance where you forget you're watching an actor. His frazzled mindset, his witty dialogue, all of it just feels real. I know this category is stacked, but I think the Academy is going to notice this moment. And then it brings me to probably the most exciting pick I've made in a long time. Best Actress in a Leading Role. I never would have thought I'd say it, but can we talk about Demi Moore for a second? Because wow. This is that kind of performance that reminds you why she's a legend. She absolutely disappears into this role, delivering something that is so raw, so powerful that it sticks with you. I can still picture the putting on the lipstick. Everything is just so well done. It's got everything. Depth, intensity, those subtle moments that just gut punch. And let's be honest, this is exactly the kind of performance the Academy loves to reward. If there was ever a time for her to take home the honor, it's right now. I mean, this is like the next step from the Ke Huy Quan and Brendan Fraser just showing up out of nowhere, delivering powerhouse performances. Demi Moore might have even exceeded both of them. And then Best Actor in a Leading Role. This one was a little bit more difficult because it's so stacked, but I think it's going to be Adrien Brody. He proved once again why, for a time, he was one of the best in film. His performance this year was next level, because it's not just about delivering the lines. It's the physicality and the emotion, the way he completely transforms and becomes his character. You can tell he put everything into this role, and I think it pays off in every scene. This is the kind of performance that gets studied in acting classes, and the Academy loves those comeback stories, and I feel like they're not going to be able to pass up these two, being Demi Moore and Adrien Brody. The only way that Adrien Brody loses is if enough people hadn't voted when the AI news came out, where they used it to adjust and enhance some of their accents. I don't know what's going to happen there, because as we know, Oscars are unpredictable, but sometimes you just feel when a film or a filmmaker is going to take that top prize. Let's take a quick break here and we'll come back for the big two. All right. Now, right before we took a break, I mentioned that the Oscars can be unpredictable, and I think that's what's going to happen here. Let's break down my predictions with Best Directing and Best Picture, and why I think these are the choices that they should go with. Now, don't get me wrong, for Best Directing, it's a toss-up right now, but I really hope and I really want to see Coralie Farge. And if you haven't seen her work yet, get on that, because this is a filmmaker who demands our attention. Her direction is fearless, it's stylish, and it's immersive, and it feels like you're physically within the film. And let's be real, that making a movie that looks this good, this beautiful, while maintaining the tension, the emotional depth, and just the graphic body horror, and while maintaining complete control of the storytelling, that's not easy. And I think what makes Farge's direction stand out is how intentional it feels. Every frame has a purpose. Every camera movement adds to the experience. This is the kind of directing that leaves a lasting impression. And sure, the Academy has a habit of favoring those more traditional names, especially in this category. But I think this year, they're going to shake things up. They're not going to go with the white guy. They're not going to go with the known name. And I think if they're paying attention, this should be Farge's time to get recognized for this extremely bold vision. The substance just, it will mess with your mind. And that brings us to Best Picture. This is where I think we're going to have another split year. I think Anora goes here. The grand prize is, and it's this one, it's going to define our year in film, and it's going to cement the legacy of Anora. The movie has everything. It has a compelling story. It has great performances. It has the razor sharp writing. It's one of those rare films that feels completely of the moment, while also having that classic, timeless quality that keeps it relevant for years to come. And you know how some Best Picture winners feel like they fade away after a couple of years? That's exactly why I think Anora is going to win, because I don't think this is going to be one of those films. I think this is the kind of film that'll stick with you and get better on every watch. And even though I didn't pick Sean Baker, I do think his direction is top tier. The way it balances the intimate character moments with the larger thematic depth is really almost perfectly done. It's emotional without being manipulative, powerful without being heavy-handed, and I think the Academy really loves a film that hits that sweet spot between artistic ambition and broad appeal, and Anora nails that. And I think that's why it's going to be split here, because the substance doesn't hold that broad appeal. It can't or won't win Best Picture, but it is why Coralie Farge will get the Best Director. But just my opinions here, everyone. So there you have it, though. That's my picks for the 97th Annual Oscars. Whether I end up being right or way off the mark, which is generally what happens, the Oscars always spark some great conversations about the movies we love and love to talk about. So if you've got time, let me know your predictions and what films you're rooting for this year. Check me out. I'm on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Real Talk. Shoot me an email, old school, therealrealtalk@gmail.com. I'm always up for a conversation. But always, thank you so much for tuning in to Real Talk. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review the show. Check out our our family of shows. There's Real Talk where we're at. We have Real Talk Horror Edition, and launching tomorrow, March 3rd, Real Talk Grimm Edition, where I break down the stories of the Grimm brothers, the fairy tales, and what are their morals? What do they mean to us today? But for now, until next time, keep watching, keep loving, and keep those reels rolling. Thanks, everybody.
Underneath the silver screen, gleam, talking reels and all their schemes. Dusty scenes and dreams unfold, stories told in shadows bold. Gritty plots and whispers tight, dim the streets in moonlight bright. We dissect the cinematic art, reel by reel we pull apart. The real talk where voices play with velvet words and starlit sway, reviewing tales both light and dark, classic films that leave a mark. Dive deep into celluloid